You can, whatever you want. Just make sure you're just talking like right into the mic. All right, episode 8. We got ourselves a guest today.
We got one of. We have the
original bean.
No, literally
the OG bean here.
This is the bean of all beans.
All right, Graham, can you hear me well?
I can hear you.
Okay.
This is our grandma.
So this is our dad's mom.
Shout out you.
You can look wherever you want. Just make sure you talk into this.
She's good.
Graham, it's probably pretty weird seeing us doing this, huh? Because when you were our age, none of this stuff ever existed.
That's right. No technology.
No.
No cell phones.
Tell everyone what year you were born.
I was born in 1936. I'll be 87 in April. And what else should I say?
The best way to do it is just pretend that there's nothing here. Just pretend like we're having a conversation, even though we are. But.
Okay.
So we want to know, what was it like to raise our dad?
It was great. I was an only child. I had no brothers or sisters. So I wanted to have a big family. So Fred and I got married. We were young. And we started having children. And I told him, well, before we were married, I said, I want 12 children.
Oh, my God.
That was my goal. He looked at me like I'm crazy. But anyway, we had 6 children. We had a girl, 4 boys and a girl. And I loved being pregnant. I loved having babies. And couldn't have asked for anything better. The kids were all pretty good. I'm not going to talk about any of them because I don't want to get in trouble.
Well, you can talk about this guy.
Talk about raising
Brian was my quiet one. He was the fourth born.
Sorry, Dad.
He was very quiet. He would sit for hours and play with the toys and didn't bother anybody. And then, of course, his brother Scott came along. And he needed attention all the time.
Really?
He had to be, he just liked attention. He wanted you to entertain him. But my kids were all great kids. I wouldn't trade them for the world.
So, my dad, what was it like being his mom whenever he first found out that his eyes were starting to go bad?
I felt really bad. Actually, I felt like it was our fault.
Really?
Because we found out it was hereditary, but we had no idea. I knew no one in our families that had his condition. So whatever it was a gene that was way back for years. And we took him to a lot of places, John Hopkins, special places, to try and get him help, But and how we actually found out when he was playing baseball, he couldn't see the ball coming to him, and
that was probably really hard being his mom and seeing.
It was very hard. It was very hard at times, and even now I think about that too. But Brian once said to me, Mom, why me? And I said, well, I think out of all my 6 children, you're the one that could handle it. He was he just was a special child, a wonderful adult now. And I just really felt bad at first but then I had to think, well, I guess we have no control of what happened. And he has been so successful.
Yeah.
Amazing what he has done in his lifetime.
So you guys grew up fairly religious. My dad went to church as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
How did religion kind of play a role, do you think, in you guys getting over it?
Well, it definitely helped.
Definitely helped?
Definitely helped.
Yeah.
We never missed a Sunday in church. Never.
He was like the president of the Boys Church Association or whatever.
Yeah.
What were you the president of? Something nerdy?
All of Pennsylvania youth.
The youth
He
group.
was a PA youth leader.
Yeah.
That's weird.
The entire church. So that's
Yeah.
Damn.
Even when we went camping, we went camping a lot, and we would always find a church wherever we camped. We just never missed church.
And you still never miss.
I really go every Sunday, except now with the weather. Sometimes I don't go because of the weather.
Yeah.
But
Are you still at the church right next to your house?
Yeah, I'm still involved with my church, and my church family really was wonderful when Pappy died. I mean, they were wonderful
That's great.
to me. And
Going back to my dad, what was it like seeing him overcome his eyes and kind of not feeling sorry for himself and letting it get to him, and eventually getting into pharmacy school and getting into Pitt and doing well in wrestling? That was probably a proud parenting moment.
it was
seeing him
just
get over it.
amazing to me. He could have went on disability for the rest of his life and never done anything with it. And I just was amazed of what he has accomplished in his lifetime. And a lot of people would just say, I'm not doing it. I'll just take my whatever the government gives me. But we were so proud whenever he was accepted into pharmacy school, and what he has done in his life with the disability that he has had.
A lot of people would have just gave up right there, huh?
Exactly. And then he did me a wonderful Kelly, our dear Kelly, who's like a daughter to me. I love her. I always say she's my extra daughter. And I'm so thankful that she came into Brian's life. I think probably he has accomplished more because of her, too. Because she's very motivated, and I think she motivated him into...
I was going through one of our scrapbooks, and I found a letter that you wrote her, thanking her for becoming a part of my dad's life.
Oh my gosh.
Because of how much you changed his life and how much she put him on the right track and made sure that he followed through with his goals, and how great of a daughter-in-law she is.
Oh, wow. Well, Kelly knows I love her like a daughter.
I love you like a mom.
I know.
If we could just circle back to my dad and his eyes, what kind of role do you think Pappy played in my dad overcoming his eyes and and maybe all the kids when they went through hardships? Because Pappy was more of a tough love kind of parent, right?
He was.
So how did Pappy handle seeing my dad's eyes slowly go in, or and maybe any other kind of difficulties that any of the kids faced? How did Pappy usually handle adversity?
He felt really bad about Brian. I mean, like I said, we sort of blamed ourselves, but and he said we're going to do everything we can. Go to doctors, and maybe they can do something for it. He always backed me up on all that, and we both of us just really loved being parents. We went to every activity they were in. I mean, Sherry did the gymnastics, and the boys wrestled, and Tim played hockey, and we went to everything. I can remember Brian and Scott were in the playoffs at wrestling. It's not playoffs.
Districts.
Yeah. And Sherry was in the districts for gymnastics. So I went with Sherry, and Pappy went with Brian and Scott. And we didn't have cell phones at that time. So in the evening, we would get a phone and we would call each other. Well, how did the boys do today? And then how did Sherry do today?
How did you call them? On like a payphone?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And the motels had phones in.
So you called the hotel and you were like, connect me to...
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because we had no cell phones. That's the only way you could talk.
And you just told them like beforehand, you were like, hey, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to call you.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
How did you like? What number did you dial? Did they have a? They didn't have a phone.
How'd you know what the hotel's phone number
How'd you know
is?
what numbers to dial?
Well, that's a good question. I don't remember.
That's what I think about when someone's calling. Like back then, when you guys would call somebody and it would just be a random payphone somewhere. How would you know what number to dial to get to that payphone?
Okay, if I remember, I knew what motel he was staying in, and he knew what motel I was staying in. So he would call that motel and ask for me, and that's how we would connect. I think that's how we connected. It's been so long.
How many years was it like that? Where you had to call people like that?
Oh, my.
Like 15 years?
When did cell phones come out? I know you never had cell phones in high school, did you? No.
So this is like 1980 to 90-ish. Like 10 years.
Or more.
So growing up though, as a kid and as a teenager and a young adult, what was how did you communicate then before the payphone? Pigeon?
Well, everybody's house had a phone on the wall.
Were you in a time before that even was a thing?
No, we always had had phones in our house. Yeah, but a lot of them were party lines.
Wait, what is it?
You'd pick up the phone and someone would be talking to somebody.
What?
And we'd say, how long are you going to be on the phone? I need to call somebody. Then they'd hang up. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
That was
That's
for
so
a while.
crazy.
And then eventually we paid extra money and we got a private line. So no one was on our lines. I think that was when Fred and I were married. We got the private line.
Now, what was it like? So you grew up in the 1940s-ish. You were born in 1936, so you were kind of a child in the 1940s. What was that like, growing up in the 1940s? Downtown Johnstown was...
It was great.
Really?
We had... I had wonderful parents. They were always supported me. I had a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins I grew up with. And we didn't have a lot of money. There wasn't a lot of money in our family, but I had the love and the support of my parents and my family, which was very important to me.
Now, what kind of jobs did your parents do? Was it...
My dad worked for Gallagher Dairy Company, and he specialized in their freezers, and he would deliver the freezers to the stores and connect them up and repair them if they needed repaired. My mom was a housewife for a while, and then she got a job cleaning houses, and she would take me with her. The people that she worked for were wonderful. They would let me come with them, and I would take my doll babies, and I would play, while she cleaned and cleaned houses. And then eventually she got a job at the Richland High School cafeteria, and she worked there for quite a while. And she loved that because she loved to cook, and that was her last job she had.
How many siblings did you have?
How many what?
Are you an only child? Were you the only child in your family, or did you have siblings?
No, I'm the only child.
You're the only child? Oh, wow.
I didn't know that.
I didn't. I thought...
That's why I wanted a big family, because
That's so
I knew.
funny. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I was very close to a lot of my cousins. I grew up with cousins, and we would get together a lot, and I had a lot of good friends in high school. And
So did you, growing up, was that around the time that the steel mills were kind of at their, were they at,
oh yeah, peak.
they were at their peak?
Oh yeah.
So downtown Johnstown was probably the place to go.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what was that like? Did you guys take a train down to downtown Johnstown?
No, my
for the
dad had a
weekends?
car,
Okay.
and we lived in Richland. Well, we moved a lot when I was young. my parents couldn't buy a house. They didn't have the money. And so we moved different places. And then finally, they got land in Richland, and they built a house there. And but downtown was booming. I mean, all, Gloucester Brothers. Every Christmas we would go downtown to see the lights. The stores were all decorated, the windows and
what year was that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Well, I was probably... It was when I was young. Even when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah. But then the mills started to fall down, close up. And
So the mills were in their decline whenever you were leaving high school?
I don't think so. I think
Not till the late 70s.
I think it was later, after I was married, that I don't know how long it's been since they. I can't remember that.
So it would have been kind of your parents' generation where they kind of knew they were going to work in the steel mills after high school. Like that was a great job to get.
That was a great job.
Yeah.
They paid good. They paid good money. They gave good vacations.
Do you know how they paid? Didn't they pay in downtown, like whenever you worked for the steel mills, didn't they kind of pay you in their own money and then you would spend it at stores that they owned? Wasn't it a system like that?
I don't know that was in John. I know Winburn was like that.
Was it?
Oh yeah, Winburn. They had their town. They had the mills. The mills were in Winburn.
Okay.
The mines, not the mills.
The mines, yeah.
And they would have to go to their stores. They had special stores, and they had to spend their money in those stores that they owned. It sort of
Because they would get currency.
They pretty much controlled them with
Yeah, that's so crazy to think about.
and that see, Pappy's dad was a miner.
Mm.
And he lived in the mining homes. They lived in the mining homes, and that's where they had a shop. They had a shop in there.
Do you remember much about your grandparents?
Yes, my grandparents. They had 12 children.
Wow.
Maybe that's why I wanted 12. I don't know. They had 6 girls and 6 boys on my mom's side. And big family. We used to get together after church Sundays, go to Grandma's house, and we always had family reunions. We still do, in fact. And on my dad's side, they were older, so I think I was probably 15 when they passed away. So I didn't have as much time with them, with my dad's parents. But my mom lived to be 90.
Mm.
So.
Wow.
Was it common for families to have a lot of kids?
Yes. See, a lot of them lived on farms, and my grandparents on my mom's side lived on farm. So they had the kids. I don't know if that's why they had the kids, but they would work on the farms. They'd help out on the farms when they were young. My mom only went to 6th grade because she was the second oldest, and she quit school to help her mom with the kids, with the little kids. So she only went to 6th grade.
Oh.
So that was before it became mandatory to go to at least 8th grade?
Yeah. You didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
No.
Wow.
Well, I think she was probably... She might have went up to 8th grade, but I know she wasn't in high school. She wasn't in high school.
And you went the whole way to 12th grade, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, it's crazy to think about that your grandparents, they were probably born in like 1850s?
Yeah, because my mom and dad were born in 1910. And so their parents were born 18 whatever.
So your grandparents, so basically us talking to you, your grandparents they were older than most of the western states.
Right.
Like Colorado and all those a lot of those western states weren't even really a state back then.
Amazing, huh? When you
So
think
weird to
about it.
think about, isn't that? That's like 3 people in front of me. You know.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I was looking at a history map the other day, and it kind of like tripped me out to think about. You know.
Yeah.
Like your grandparents were pretty much in America before Colorado was a state,
Yeah.
and before like Arizona was a thing.
Their
Their
parents,
parents.
they came from legitimately Germany
Yeah.
Yeah.
and Europe.
Well, probably, yeah.
Do you have it? Do you know anything about that? Like what family, what Pappy's side came over to the States or anything?
Pappy's side, I can't think.
Or even your side? Do you have stories of like the first person to come to America?
No. But I know on my dad's side, some came from Ireland. And my mom's side, Germany. But I never knew anyone that lived there.
Yeah.
They all came over years before.
They came over on a wooden boat.
Probably. I don't know.
Ellis Island.
Oh my God. Probably, yeah.
And a lot came to Johnstown because of the steel mills.
Mm.
They needed workers. And that's why a lot of the people settled from other countries into Johnstown.
Me and my mom were just talking about how funny it is that our whole family's in Johnstown still. Like
Yes.
Wendy's here,
That's
Scott's here,
amazing.
Tim's here. And the only reason that we are here is because of the Wimber mine.
Yeah.
Because if you go to Wimber and you look at on the main street, they have a plaque there. There's a bunch of names. And there's like 5 Warshels on it. And they're like Pappy's dad, I don't know if it's Pappy's brothers or something. Do
Probably.
you remember who was on it?
Probably
Uncles and stuff.
Uncles. Maybe
We had like
uncles.
5 of our family members on this plaque from Wimber that basically just says that they worked in the mines, and 200 years later, we're still here. Everyone.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Because
Just
so
from
many
mine.
people
Trippy to
leave
think about.
the area, which I really feel honored that my kids stayed here, although sometimes I think they were probably crazy for staying here. But I was telling Aunt Sherry the other day that we almost lived in Florida because his uncle, a couple of his Pappy's uncles and aunts lived in Florida. And we used to go every year. We'd take the kids out of school, and they'd take their homework, and we'd get down to visit them. And one year Pappy said, I think we ought to move to Florida. I looked at him and I said, Pappy, we can't. He said, why? I said, because my mom and dad live here, and they have no one to take care of them, and I have to be here with my parents. I have to take care of my parents when they get older, because I had no brothers or sisters that could take over from me. So if it wouldn't be for that, you probably would all been born in Florida. I don't know.
Probably not born at all.
It's funny how we all I bet every family member came to a point where they were like, I want to go somewhere, but then someone's like, nope. Our family's here.
Nope.
And it's funny, like, Doug's really the only one that is not here.
Doug always said, from time he was in high school, he wanted to move to Colorado. That was his dream.
Yeah.
That was his dream.
That's
and
cool.
He was the only one that really, of course, with your mom and dad, your mom's parents were here too,
True.
which made a difference.
Yeah.
They all stayed, but that's why I wouldn't move, because I said I have to stay here and take care of my parents. So.
This for some reason this is interesting to me, but I kind of wanted to talk about growing up. Whenever you guys would want to eat, you would have to start a fire in your oven. Like, you didn't have electric ovens, you didn't have propane.
Yes, I did. My parents had. Now probably their parents didn't.
You had a propane oven?
I think they had electric.
Really? Oh wow, I didn't think of that.
But I think like my grandparents. My grandparents lived on a farm, and I can remember them building a fire.
Not to heat your house though. Did you have to?
No, not to heat the house.
You had to burn wood to heat the house.
Well, they had a fireplace in the house. But I think they had other. I think they had other heat too. Though.
I know my mom's parents. They had a like a wood oven where they had to start a fire to do that. Right. Yeah, the farm. Yeah, your parents though.
Just at the farm, which was 100 years old.
Oh, never mind then.
Well, Pappy's. I remember Pappy telling me his grandmother. He lived with his grandparents for a while, and they had a stove that they had to build a fire to cook. Yeah, his grandparents, that was. Yeah.
It's pretty interesting to think about. Now we just push a button.
I know.
Not too long after either.
No.
It's only been about 100 years probably since then.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like? What was it like getting married to Pappy?
And how
Do you
guys
remember
meet?
what year it was?
Well, we
Start from the beginning.
went
Pappy.
to.
yeah,
Of course, we went to school together, and he told me one day he saw me at my locker, and he said to his sister, "I want to meet her. I got to meet her. I like that girl." So one day I was at my locker, and he came over and started talking to me. And then we just talked in school and that. And then eventually he asked me out for a date. And then we dated. I think I was in maybe 10th grade then. And then when I was a senior, he said, I think we ought to date other people. I said, okay, that's all right with me. So I got the first date. Before he had another girl. Okay. So anyway, one day, this guy, one of my classmates, called me and he asked me out. And I said, yeah, I'll go out. So I got ready, and before he came, Pappy came to the door. He didn't call or nothing, he just came over. I said, what are you doing here? He said, oh, I was in the neighborhood and I thought I'd stop by. I said, well, you have to leave. I said, I have a date coming. I said, you have to get out of here because I don't want you here whenever he comes, you know. So he left, and he later told me he went to his old girlfriend's house. But then we found out that we didn't like anybody better than each other, so we decided to get married.
How long did you date before you got married?
Well, like I said, 10th grade we started seeing each other and dating, and then it was probably, I don't know if it was a year. No, it wasn't a whole, maybe 6 months that we sort of decided to date other people. I had quite a few dates too.
She was homecoming queen.
But
You were homecoming
he
queen.
did too. I was homecoming queen. Yeah. We'll never forget that. And then, I don't know, we just got back together and we decided we're getting married. And Pappy's dad said, you're too young to get married. You're not getting married. And Pappy said, listen, if you won't sign for me, we're going to Maryland and get married because you didn't have to have any approval from anybody. So his dad said, all right, I'll sign. So he signed.
My gosh.
So 66 years later,
You're here.
yeah.
How long in between getting married and realizing you guys wanted to be together? Did you, what was that time period? Between, whenever you decided you guys liked each other?
Oh, it was a couple years.
A couple years.
That we knew we wanted to get married. Yeah.
You guys were young, though. You were about 19
Oh, yeah.
when you got married? Yeah, I'm 20.
We were young.
Yeah.
What was Pappy's stance on kids?
What's that?
Did Pappy want kids too?
Oh, yeah. He wanted kids. But I don't know that he wanted that many.
Yeah.
But he said to me, well, you ought to be satisfied with 6. I said, yeah. Yeah, I'm satisfied. I got a girl, 4 boys and a girl. He said, I know you're going to get more than 12 grandkids. So he said, don't worry, you'll get more.
Yeah.
So then the grandkids started coming.
That's fun.
Which was nice, awesome. So was.
So, what was so when you were in high school, and did you kind of decide while you were in high school that you want to be a stay-at-home mom and then and take care of the kids?
Well, I never thought about that, but when I graduated, I worked for commercial credit for 2 years, right out of high school. Pappy worked at a bank, Dell Bank, and then 2 years later, we had Wendy, and he said to me, "I want you to be a stay-at-home mom. I want you to be home when the kids go to school, and when you're gonna home when they come home." So he worked like 3 jobs so that I could stay home. And of course, I kept having more kids, so down the line. But yeah, he worked. He was a hard worker.
Mm-hmm.
He worked at least 3 jobs just so that I could stay home and not work. And then I was stay-at-home mom till Sherry was in 3rd grade, and then I started doing the secretary work in my church, and I worked. That was all I worked.
Inventory. Inventory.
You said you did inventory.
Oh, I also did inventory because we had 3 kids in college at one time. So I went into stores and did inventory. I worked for an inventory company for about 5 years, I think, besides the secretary work during the day.
So, but when you were in high school, college wasn't much of an option.
Not too many kids went, especially girls. I had 82 who graduated with me, and there was some of the boys did go to college, but a lot didn't, and very few girls went to college back then.
Why do you think that was the way it was?
Probably money. Parents probably didn't have the money to send them, and a lot of them did get married young. I mean, in our day and age, we got married young. So when you got married, then you start having kids. And
did parents have jobs that were really like specialized? Like, was it common for your friends' parents to have jobs that were like engineer, doctor, lawyer, anything like that? Like, what kind of jobs did people have? They were working mostly in the steel mills. Their parents.
Well, some worked in the mines. They worked in the mines. Some worked in the stores, like a grocery store or
But they were just common jobs around the
they
community.
were just common jobs.
Around the community that they worked
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
Did they pay well?
They weren't high-paying jobs, no, but they were livable because the prices were cheaper back then. The salaries weren't as much, but like the gas and everything was a lot cheaper that you could make it on.
What were the salaries?
Oh, gee.
Maybe weekly or?
I
20,000. Like a good job.
I can't. I don't know what the salaries were back then. I know Pappy didn't make a lot of money. In fact, he always said that the last few years when he worked drive tractor trailer, he was actually making more money then than he did raising kids, because they were paying good then, But most of my friends' parents, they were just normal, average people.
Yeah.
They didn't really have big high-paying jobs. And
So, Graham, to circle back a little bit, how old were you during the Johnstown flood? Do you remember the Johnstown flood happening?
Well, there was 3 floods in Johnstown. Of course, I wasn't born in 1889.
Yeah.
1936, I was not born. I was born a month later. 1977, I remember because course, I had kids then, and we were camping down in Virginia. And I remember one of the boys was on a bike, and they came up and they said, "Mom, Dad, there's a flood in Johnstown." I said, "There can't be a flood in Johnstown. We're flood free," because that's what they told us. We're flood free.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So
Really?
we had a little TV. We turned the TV on, and lo and behold, remember, Brian? Lo and behold, on the TV, it showed people that we knew from back here. And that's how we learned about the flood. When we came back into Johnstown, you could hardly even get in because the roads were closed or they were damaged from the flood. And in the Richardson High School, which was on Scalp Avenue then, was the morgue. The people that died in the flood, they brought to the school, and that's where they identified them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were there how many people? Let's look up how many people died in that.
I don't remember, but there was a lot. And one of my schoolmates that was married, his wife and child was going downtown, and the freeway collapsed, and they were killed. What? Yeah, one of my classmates from high school.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And she had a kid.
Well, they had, huh?
The kids died too?
Yeah.
Two kids?
His wife and his daughter died. Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he wasn't with them, so he survived. But yeah, the roads were impassable, and it was pretty bad.
So do you remember the aftermath at all of you know, like, do you remember the aftermath of what downtown was like, with the buildings destroyed and businesses destroyed?
Oh yeah, the buildings was destroyed. They flooded. Well, the water, went into all the buildings, and a lot of people escaped by taking the inclined plane out. My dad lost his car. He was downtown in 1936. This was the 1936 flood. My dad worked downtown, and he got out of town on the inclined plane, and he lost his car. His car was flooded, so he lost his car on that flood. But of course, in Richland, we didn't have that much damage in Richland, but downtown, and Windber had a lot of damage too. They had a lot of damage.
That's weird that Wimber did.
It's lower. Huh. We're on the hill, they're in the valley.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I don't know how many people died in Windber, but I know there was a lot of damage in Windber too.
Yeah. Was there a lot of volunteer work going around to clean up? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people volunteered, and they would come out and they would feed the workers. And
my other grandma, she actually was one of the first responders. She flew down in a helicopter or in a boat, and was grabbing people out of the water and resuscitating them.
Oh,
pretty crazy.
My gosh, that's awesome.
In 1977.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy to think about.
Do you remember taking us camping every year?
Oh yeah. We had fun camping.
Do you remember whenever the groundhog?
Well, what we did, we took the boys. What was we had?
It was all the
Laurelview State Park.
I don't remember where it was.
And we went walking and hiking, and there was a groundhog, and it sort of started coming toward us. You wasn't.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't there.
I was the youngest one, I think.
And Pappy had a stick, and he beat it because he was afraid it was a rabbit and if it bites
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
It was rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like me and my 6 cousins were all walking down the street, just like some road in the middle of nowhere. Grammy and Pappy are at the front. This groundhog comes walking towards us, and before you know it, my pap has this huge stick. It looked like a tree back then because I was like 7, and he was just whacking this, beating the hell out of this groundhog until it basically stopped moving. And then we were like, well, Pappy just saved our lives. We thought Pappy was a superhero because this groundhog was coming for us.
Yeah.
It was literally trying to bite us.
It was scary to me. It was really scary.
Yeah.
And then we took the girls, another weekend we took the granddaughters, and we went to Blue Knob State Park with them. and they had a monument. Like you had to walk down probably a couple miles, at least a mile or more, to this monument. It was a monument. There was 2 little boys that got lost in the woods, and they had a monument there. So Pappy said, "Do you want to go see the monument?" Oh, yeah, they want to see the monument. So we start walking down, and we didn't realize how far it was. And at that time, I was starting to have trouble with my knees, with the arthritis. And we got down there and saw the monument. Of course, we had to walk back up the mountain. And Pappy said, "You stay down here. I'm going to bring the car down." I says, "Oh, no, you're not." I said, "I walked down the mountain, and I'm walking back up the mountain." And I made it. I made it up the hill. But the girls had always said, "How come you took us on that walk so far down the mountain and we had to go up?"
Yeah, that's funny. Because they don't care about the monument.
No, they didn't care about the monument. But our vacations when we had 6 children were mostly camping because it was very cheap. We could go camping like $2-3 a night. Yep. And Pappy bought campers, and that's the vacations we mostly had was camping because we didn't have the money to go to motels and do all that. But we did take the kids to Florida a lot, like every year in the motorhome.
You guys love Florida. You love spending the winters there.
For 20 years.
Spent every winter in Florida. And you lived out of an RV. That's pretty cool.
Lived out of an RV.
Did you like that tiny home kind of living?
Loved it. I loved it. When the kids were little, like I said, we got campers. And then the kids started getting into baseball and that, and we sort of stopped camping. And then when Sherry finally got out of school, Pappy said, "Do you want to start camping again?" I said, "Oh, I don't know." He said, "Oh, let's do it." So we went and bought a motorhome and fell in love again with it. We just loved camping. And we went, for our 50th wedding anniversary, we went every state in the United States, went cross country in the motorhome.
In one trip?
6 weeks we went. Mm-hmm.
And you went to every single state?
Well, we went cross country. We didn't have.
I thought you meant you went to every single state.
But we've been in every state. We have been in every state, but not on that one. We were, like up that way and down. But then the one in the middle is we worked, because we would go to a lot of state parks, and we both loved camping. And then when we started going to Florida, we had so many wonderful friends. We just met friends all over the United States. And I still have contact with them. I mean, they call me, and of course they're all getting older too, and they don't go to Florida anymore either because they're.
That's something that I really want to do someday in my life, to spend a good amount of years traveling in an RV. That's something I always wanted to do. It's that tiny home living and on wheels. I feel like that would, for me, I would love that.
It's so much fun, Everywhere we would stay 4 years, and every place we went to, we'd stay like 4 years. And we'd make all these friends, and then the people would say, "Oh, sell that camper and let's sell that camper and buy something in this park." And I said, No. We want wheels. If we don't want to come back here next year, we can go somewhere else. But if you buy a place and you stuck there, that's the only place you go. Mm-hmm. So that's what I liked about the motorhome. Mm-hmm. And Pappy loved driving the motorhome. Mm-hmm. I mean, he loved getting behind that wheel. And
there's so much freedom in that kind of life.
There is.
Yeah, you can just kind of decide where you want to live, or you could park in front of a nice scenic view and make a good dinner, or just chilling in there. That's something I really want to do someday.
And I'll tell you what, out west they have so many state parks.
Yeah.
And they are awesome. Those state parks. And it don't cost you much money because that's federal federal land.
Mm-hmm.
But we love camping, and I'm surprised that really none of our kids camp. Well, Uncle Doug does. He does.
We love camping.
But,
Me, Colby, and Shimmy, we love camping.
do you?
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. We went down to the pond a couple times over the summer, and Colby set up a little campsite, and we would just chill down there for the night.
Build a campfire. And,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. We just something we love to do.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask you was, what's it like? I mean, this is to circle back. This is just a random, but what's it like now holding a smartphone? Pretty much having like every answer in the world that you could possibly think of, and access to all the information you could conceive. What's it like having that compared to, like we were talking about earlier, having a payphone and having to know the number of the hotel that you want to call into to talk to somebody? What was seeing that development like?
Well, it was hard for me to get adjusted to that because I didn't know the technology. But Pappy was good at that.
Mm-hmm.
He was good on computers and he was good on the phone. And I really like it now. I really miss it because everywhere you go, you have a phone. And at least if you need something, you can call someone right away, and get the help. And but I think it's not all good either.
No. Me and you were just talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the kids are on it too much. I mean, I'll go to a restaurant to eat, and there's a family of maybe 5, 6 people, and they're all on their phones. They're not even talking to each other. They're all looking down at their phones,
Yeah.
Remember that one year at Christmas time? You all came to my house for Christmas or Thanksgiving, and Pappy had a basket, and he made you put
Oh, yeah. I do remember that.
He made you put all your phones
I remember
in the
that.
basket because he said you're all
All
you
the
don't need
girls
a
were
phone.
mad. That's funny.
I remember that.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's weird to think about that. This is pretty much the first time ever in the history of humans that we have access to all of that information right at our fingertips. And
Oh, I know.
it's almost like our brains probably aren't ready to comprehend all of that information at once. And especially if you're a kid in 6th grade getting a smartphone, you have access to anything, like
I
anything you
know.
want.
And
But-
some things aren't good.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
That's-
a lot of things, like whenever kids go on social media, the like algorithm or the way social media works is they're gonna show you more of what of what they think you want to see. So kids, they don't want to see videos of like people learning things or engineering projects. Like they're not really interested in learning on their phone. They want to see videos of people like falling down and funny videos. So they're just consuming those videos all day long because the more they research, the more they look up on their phone like funny videos or maybe like just anything, the more their phone is going to show them those videos.
know.
So those kids are just seeing those all day long. Instead of using technology in the way that like you can learn how to cook, you can learn how to build a house. You can learn how to do anything really.
And there's a lot of
Second
things
language.
that are really bad on and I think there's more bullying with the phones. I think there's more suicides with kids because of this. Really, when I was in high school, I don't remember anybody getting bullied. I know maybe someone was that I didn't know about.
It was more physical bullying back then, huh?
Probably,
Not
yeah.
like
Well, yeah, it would
emotional
be because
bullying.
we didn't have the phones.
Yeah.
But
Bullying these
it was a
days.
simple life back then, But what I liked about the phone now, when I was having problems with my eyes, I would get on my phone and ask questions. Well, it answers every question I wanted. Sometimes I didn't like the answer.
I know, right?
It was scary.
You look up like my eyes hurt and it says you're going to die in 3 days.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, there's good and there's bad at that. But I do like my phone, and I like the contact that I have with people.
Is it weird? Do you ever sit back and kind of think about that you're the pretty much the generation that got to see the full, probably the biggest jump in technology
Oh, absolutely.
that we're gonna see in a long time because you went from like I said, a payphone to, this thing.
Right.
And this thing, is way better than what NASA had whenever you were,
Yeah.
even,
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
in your
Right.
50s. This is better than what NASA used to have.
Yeah.
And now I have it in my pocket for $600.
Yeah.
You know.
But my generation, is the generation that would have gone from the one to the other a
Yeah.
lot.
You saw that your generation probably saw the biggest jump in technology
Oh, absolutely.
that they're going to see in a long time, until we start traveling to other worlds.
Yeah, you wonder what's next.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be something.
They do virtual reality now. So you put on a headset and you're kind of in like a video game, but you're in the video game and you're a part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you have one of those.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
one.
Christmas time you got it. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird to think about because
I know.
how far is that going to go, Eventually it might be you can't tell the difference between reality and being in virtual reality,
And that wouldn't be good.
No.
It's not good.
Yeah, you're in a simulated reality.
I still think my generation had the best life. I really, even though we didn't have a lot, I still feel that I don't know, I think we were, I don't know, closer or, I don't know what it is. To me, I mean, we'd go away and never lock our doors. You never locked the car, sat out. I mean, I know there was bad people, but it was nothing like now.
I feel like you guys had more of a sense of community and different values than what we have today.
Yeah.
Think about this. 50 years ago, there was only 170 million people in all of the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's half as many as now.
Right.
Yeah. I talked to a couple that was 75, and they were saying that when they were like parents, adults, and they were 30 years old, they would go out to these national parks, and there's no one there. And now when they go, there's just like droves of people everywhere. And like the whole United States was half as many people. So.
Oh yeah, and we went to Disney when we went to Florida every winter. For 12 years, we got season passes, and when we first went, it wasn't crowded. You didn't have to hardly wait for rides. You just get on, Well, the first time we went, this was when the kids were younger. They only had one park, Magic Kingdom. They didn't even have 4 different parks.
Wow.
And then, as all the years kept going by, I mean, just people down there, you couldn't get on rides. You had to wait in line, where, there's more people. And there's a lot of people from other countries that come in.
Yeah.
A lot of people from other countries come in, but we had so much fun at Disney. I mean, we loved it. We would get up in the morning, and Pappy would say, "Oh, what do you want to do today?" "Well, let's go to Disney." So we'd hop in the car and go to Disney, and we'd just sometimes go to one park, sometimes we'd go to 3 parks. And we would ride in roller coasters. We're still riding roller coasters.
Oh, yeah.
Pappy just died and was riding roller coasters. And but then we'd sit around and we'd just start up a conversation with people. It's amazing what you learn from people you don't even know.
Yeah.
The camaraderie, something about it. But then, like I said, then it started getting so crowded and it wasn't as fun. But we still went because we had the exercise. You'd walk around the park and it was exercise.
For sure.
Gave us something to do.
Yeah.
And then we did a lot of cruises because we get on cruises when we were in Florida. We did 16 cruises.
Wow.
Loved cruising. Pappy loved cruising. He would always get on the phone when we'd get to Florida, and he'd call our friends from Savannah, Georgia, that we met on a cruise. And he'd say, "Do you want to go on a cruise?" And Charlie is his name. "Yeah," Charlie said, because he loved cruising. So he'd get on the computer, we'd get a nice cruise, and we'd go cruising with them. They'd come down, and we'd go cruising with them.
That's cool.
It's a great way to vacation.
Oh, we loved it.
You don't really have to plan out your day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the middle of the freaking ocean.
Yeah.
Kind of have to
Sort of
surrender,
scary
just
in a way,
relaxing.
though,
Yeah.
when you think about it. All that water, and I don't swim.
Yeah, your grandparents came to America on a wooden boat, and now
I know.
you're taking vacations on a floating city.
On a floating, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny to think about.
But there's nothing like a cruise to me. I mean, it's just everything's planned. If you want to do activities,
Yep.
if you don't want to, you don't have to.
Yeah, we always love those cruises.
Get on the islands and walk around, and
They're relatively cheap too for the experience. You know, they're not too expensive for the kind of experience that you get.
no, when you think about it, well, when we were in Florida, we didn't have to pay to, of course, to fly. So our expense was pretty. You know, we could just drive to the ports and go from there. And but
Graham,
he-
I have one more question that I was curious about to ask you. So, do you know how old you were whenever JFK was assassinated?
no, but I was married and had kids. What year?
You were old enough to like comprehend what was going on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, what was the country like when that happened? Was there a lot of confusion?
Oh, everyone was devastated.
Really?
Oh yeah.
But everyone kind of loved him. Everyone.
He was a president that most people liked, whether he was Republican or Democrat or Independent.
And back then, you know, with whoever the president was, it was like everyone accepted that was the president, and
Right.
they wished him the best.
Right.
Yeah.
And back then they didn't have these bulletproof cars and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they.
Well, there's a lot of so that they kind of it's accepted that it was Lee Harvey Oswald, right? No, that was Lincoln. Was that the guy? Was that who killed JFK? That's kind of accepted that that's who killed JFK, but there's a lot of speculation that it was actually a part of the government, like the CIA.
Yeah,
Was-
I know.
Yeah.
They're still investigating it, I think.
Yeah, they can't really figure that out.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about it, but I listened to a little video about it. It's interesting to hear. But what do you think? Like, was it just devastation and everyone came together to figure out the next best solution, or was it a little bit divided after he was murdered?
Well, I think it brought everybody together at first, like 911.
Mm-hmm.
When 911 hit, everybody came together.
Mm-hmm.
You loved everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It was like we have to figure this
Right.
out. Yeah.
But of course, it doesn't last forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just. But I don't know. I think he was really loved by the people, and she was too. You know, I think. And then the way he had to die, which was unfortunate, because he was young.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't, you know, he was young, and it was pretty devastating for everybody.
So, and then we come back to 2020 when the pandemic happened. I kind of thought when the pandemic happened, because that was right after a lot of riots were happening, I
Yeah.
kind of thought that was a time where, like, we're going to come together to, like, figure this out, you know, but instead everyone just got really divided. Everyone got divided in their political views or, like, the way that they viewed how you should handle the virus, you know, whether you should stay home, wear a mask, get vaccinated. Like, everyone kind of had their differing opinions, and they were so married to their ideas that, you know, we just got really divided. Like, what do you think? Do you think that there was a big difference between how we handled things like that, like how we handle adversity as a country today compared to how we handled 9/11 or JFK being
Absolutely.
assassinated? You know, do you see a big difference?
The country's so divided right now. It's so sad for me to see what the politicians are doing. I mean, it seems like they're not for the people that they're supposed to be. They get elected, and then all they do is worry about the next election. They don't worry about the people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. It's sad how it's so political. Everything's so political now. And the riots. When I look at those people going in and destroying property, and I just think, where's the parents of these kids? I don't think my kids would have ever done that, and my grandkids.
Yeah.
They have the values, and I don't think a lot of this generation don't have values anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They just think that the government knows them everything.
Mm-hmm.
In our day and age, if someone if someone had a problem, maybe someone was sick and the parents couldn't work, the families came together and they helped their families. And the churches came together and they would help them. Now everything, the government needs to help the people. And I don't think that's a good thing.
There's a sense of entitlement.
Yes,
Yeah.
entitlement. So it's just, I really feel bad for my grandkids and my great-grandchildren. I really do, because what you are seeing and having to grow up with is sad to me, because I had a great childhood and I didn't have that, you know. But I don't know. The country's just so divided right now. It's
I wonder where it's gonna go, or where we're gonna end up. Because you're right, it is really just about the next election and about kind of tearing your opponent apart.
It is.
Personally instead of politically, and it's weird. Like, you know, they just want to make sure that they make that opponent look bad instead of saying this is what I'm gonna do if you elect me. They say this is why you shouldn't elect my opponent.
Yeah.
You know, so no one really knows what's going on. They're like, well, who should I vote for then? Because I don't know what either one of you are gonna do. I just know both of you are shitty people. You know?
We just had an election,
Yeah.
and now all you see on TV is the 2024 election.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and there's hundreds of millions of dollars that go into their funding
unbelievable.
because now they're
That's a sin. That's a crime for all the money that they put to get elected.
they kind of have to now because everyone only finds out about them off their phones, so they have to run ads to kids. You know, they have to
I
run
know.
ads saying that this is why you shouldn't vote for my opponent, or, you know, and they have to kind of target those ads to my generation and Colby's generation.
There's gonna
And
be a point in
it's all off our phones.
There's gonna be a point in our life, hopefully, where they ban like lobbying and any way for an elected official should never get money that's not from the government. And once they do that, I feel like everything will change.
If that ever happens, though.
Yeah, it's gonna be so hard for it to happen because they're getting money from billionaires,
I know.
and they're the ones that make the decisions. So why would they say, "No, we don't want that money anymore"?
Exactly.
They're gonna They're gonna make sure that they can get that money. So,
Actually, they need term limits. Is what they need.
yeah.
There's no
Absolutely.
reason anyone should be in Congress for 40 years. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's just not right. And they get reelected every year. Why do the people keep reelecting them? There could be term limits if we didn't vote for the same people all the time.
Yeah, you kind of lose. If you're in Congress for 40 years, you probably lose. Your perception of reality is way different than the people you say you're fighting for.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, the reality that someone like Nancy Pelosi is living is way different than the reality of the people she says she's fighting for.
That's right. And you
know.
realize how much. I mean, these people are millionaires.
Oh, hundreds
Multi-millionaires.
of millions.
When you see the houses they live in and
Oh,
everything.
yeah. They're not paying the kind of taxes that they want to
and
charge.
they're not helping the people. I mean, look at California. What California's like
Yeah, it's crazy.
with all those homeless people and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's homelessness is out of control, especially in
Well, the
Southern
mental health
California.
is another problem.
Yeah, for
There's a
sure.
lot of issues.
That's probably a bigger problem, honestly.
That's probably a lot of the problem. Mental health. Yeah.
Why do you think that your generation has better mental health than ours?
Well, our generation didn't expect the government to take care of us. We were expected to get a job, work, you get a paycheck, and you just you don't ask anybody to help you. And I think mentally, people there were some problems with mental health, but I don't think nothing like now. But there's a lot more people too.
True.
But we were brought up that you don't want anybody taking care of you. If you have a family, you take care of that family. You don't expect the government or people to help you. You know. But now, I don't know if that has anything to do with mental health. I don't.
It does, because if you don't want, I feel like one of the problems now is that most people don't have a true like goal in life.
Goal.
Like
A goal.
really, there's nothing like very important that they want to achieve. It's kind of just like, I'll just do what the next person does, or
Yeah.
something like that. Even back then, though, it's not like you guys. It's not like Pappy was 25 years old and he's like, I want to start the first, like transcontinental railroad and doing. He didn't have big ideas really. They kind of just kept it simple, but they worked their ass off. All of them, no matter what. And you can have a dream, and that's great. And if you work towards a dream, that's great too. But if it makes you no money, then it's really hard to have a dream.
Yeah.
And then you could also get rid of that, though, by just doing another job that's not like your dream job, but it becomes something you're passionate about over time. Like Pappy, I'm sure when he started driving buses, he wasn't like, this is the best thing in the whole world. Right. But then by the end, he's like, it's like his favorite thing.
He loved it.
Yeah. And he's getting paid to do it.
Right.
And that, but it wasn't his dream job, but it became something he cared about over time.
And since he passed away, I don't know how many people said to me he was the best bus driver they were ever on, because he did all these trips. And even to this day, once in a while, I run into somebody and they said he was the best driver. Well, Uncle Tom said because he used to take McCourt football, and Uncle Tom said no one drove like him. He said no one. He said he was their best driver they ever had. He knew everywhere to go, because he was so. And sometimes, like Brian and the kids would call, Dad, how do I go here? How do I go there? Because he's been there. He went driving truck and driving bus. He was all over
To kind of go off
places, and he knew.
To kind of go off of what Colby was saying, I think that that your generation, that the mental health was less prevalent too, because like you guys were saying, that you had no, you were gonna work, that was a given. But through the hard work that people like Pappy put in, he learns a lot about himself. Like, he learns that he can overcome certain things. Like, he learns that he can feed this family.
Right.
And he had a lot of pride in that, and it wasn't an anxiety thing. Like, Pappy didn't have anxiety about what other people thought about him, and that's where a lot of mental health comes through today. Is like, people were worried about their peers, because, like we were saying before about our cell phones, I can have, tomorrow I can have 1,000 people texting me on my phone saying I suck. Because that's just I have that kind of access. But Pappy, he didn't really worry about that kind of stuff. He just worried about, his only anxiety was, let's get this next paycheck so I can feed my family. So he always had something to work towards, and it's just kind of interesting to think about that the difference of the mental space that people kind of had to work through. Like, Pappy never sat down and thought, like, oh no, I hope my coworkers think that, I'm a cool person. Or it was just like, he just had the task, and then he was going to do that task regardless. And in doing that, you learn a lot about yourself,
If somebody didn't like it, that's too bad. That's their problem, not my problem.
Yeah. Having goals and having things, when you overcome adversity like that, then you kind of you just learn about yourself. Like, you kind of learn that, who you are. And
yeah.
It's interesting to think about that, because it's probably less prevalent that people do have to go through adversity these days. Different kinds of adversity, at least.
Oh, I know.
I have one more question. There's a lot of studies that go on now in medical research where they find that as you get older, the more people that you talk to and are social with, the less chance you have of dementia. Do you think that you and Pappy, like constantly traveling and meeting people and the church and all those things, do you think that played a role in you staying young for so long?
Probably, I think it did, because we were very people oriented. We just loved talking to people, and now I know sometimes it's in your genes; you don't have no control over it, But he and I were very fortunate with health-wise too, because we could go and do what we wanted to do. A lot of people, they can't do anything. So I can't even imagine that. Even now, when Pappy passed away, I thought to myself, how am I going to do this without him? And then with the support of my family and my neighbors, my church family, I thought, my neighborhood, we have Zumba. I'm going to Zumba. When we have Zumba, I'm going. When we have bingo, I'm going. So, and we had luncheons. And I've gone to every one of those because I feel like if I sit in my house and watch the TV all day, that's not good for me either. And I need to be around people and talk to people. So I've been very active in my neighborhood, and I have wonderful neighbors. They would do anything to help me if I needed help. And my kids are fantastic. God bless me with these great kids and grandkids, and I just feel so fortunate. And I know he would want me to go on and do things. He wouldn't want me to sit. And if I had gone first, I wouldn't have wanted him either. Well, I always kid. He probably had a girl in the background to kiss. Because men can't go without a woman. I always said he probably has a girl in the background. When I leave this world, he'll pick another one up. But we just had a great life, and we struggled a lot at different times because when you raise 6 kids, it's a lot of responsibility too, But you guys have all been so great, and like Thanksgiving, you all gave me a speech. Remember?
No. What do we do?
If you need anything, call me. If you need a ride, call me.
Oh.
Well, I don't want to. I want to be independent as long as I can. And so.
You could see how as you get older, though, if you kind of want to just let go of life, then you can get a lot older really fast.
It can happen very fast, too.
That's why it's so important for people your age to constantly be talking and being around people and doing stuff like that, because you don't want to, like you said, you don't want to sit in your house and just wither away.
No, and when I was having a problem with my eyes, of course I couldn't drive. And I haven't driven for like a month. And I thought the other day, you know what? I got to drive. I can't give up my driving. That's my independence. Yeah. So I decided, get in the car and go somewhere. So I went to Walmart. but I just
keep doing that.
Once you lose your independence, then I think you just start going downhill. Because you... Well, some people like to depend on people, though. See, I don't like that. I like to be independent. But I know I'm not always going to be independent. If I keep living, I know eventually it's going to happen to me. But
yeah, well, I mean, you and Pappy created a great life for my dad and his siblings, and they were able to create a great life for my brother and I and our siblings, and we're all going to take care of each other. We're going to take care of you for as long as we can, and we love you so much.
Well, I love you guys more.
We're very grateful for the life you gave my dad and the life he's given us.
I appreciate that, and like I said, I couldn't have. If I look back, I don't think I would have changed anything in my life. I'd have no regrets. I've had a wonderful life. And like I told everybody, when it's my time, I'll go. Yep. And don't be sad, because you had me a long time. So I'm hoping I can be independent a little while longer, and because I know a lot of my people my age, they can't do anything. Now, whether it was partly their fault because they stopped doing it, I don't know, But physically too, it means different. If you're physically fit, then you're definitely makes a difference.
Well, Graham, thank you so much for doing this. You did great. See, there's nothing to worry about.
Well,
we're just talking.
I don't know what all I said, but
That was a great one.
It was good. Let's all get a group hug in here.
that was a long one. How long?
An hour.
More than that.
An hour. Oh, you guys are so sweet. I love you.
Listen there.
Is this why you had me over today?
Yeah.
Oh my.
We were using you for content.
You're using
They're
me.
gonna monetize you.
See, you're using me.
Get over here, Shane.
Well, like I said,